It is now my great honor to introduce our graduation speaker. Let me say at the outset that the tradition at William & Mary Law School is that the graduation speaker is not chosen by the dean, it's not chosen by the faculty, it's chosen by the students. And the students this year have again made a brilliant choice. Our speaker is no stranger to the graduating class. In fact, on your very first day at law school in August of 2009, you were welcomed by Judge John Charles Thomas, who gave a riveting presentation. Judge Thomas is a Virginian. He received his BA with distinction in 1972 and his JD degree in 1975, both from the University of Virginia, Thomas Jefferson's second law school. In 1983, Judge Thomas was appointed to the Supreme Court of Virginia at the age of 32, the youngest person ever to serve on that court, as well as its first African-American justice. Since stepping down from the bench, Judge Thomas has returned to private practice, and he is currently a senior partner in the Richmond office of Hunt & Williams, leading that law firm's appellate law practice. Judge Thomas is also a certified mediator and arbitrator, having settled a wide variety of disputes in Virginia and beyond. And most interesting to me, he has served as a member of the Court of Arbitration for Sport, based in Lausanne, Switzerland, which settles all those disputes you read about in the newspapers from time to time, involving the World Anti-Doping Code for the Olympic sports, for the Tour de France, and for the LPGA. He's got some great stories. An acclaimed public speaker, Judge Thomas has lectured around the world. This is his second commencement address in the last 24 hours. Yesterday, he received an honorary degree and delivered the commencement address at Longwood University. On a final note, Judge Thomas is an accomplished poet, and he has committed an amazing number of poems to memory. If we're lucky, we may hear a bit of his poetry. Judge Thomas, please come forward and address your class, the class of 2012.
Thank you so much. To the parents and friends here, I've seen this group before, but I saw them on their first day when they didn't have the green robes and the berets and all that, when they were wide-eyed and filled with wonder and maybe a little fear about what was to come. And it's been a joy to see you grow and change and evolve to what we have before us today. This is a magnificent point in the life of a lawyer. I can remember my own time 37 years ago, but you've come a great long way. I think then that the law stood before you in all its inscrutable majesty, and you wondered, can I be a part of that? How can I work hard enough to understand it? How can I know? And so where once you had no clue about how to begin a legal research project, now you have discovered within yourselves the ability to find support for even the most esoteric proposition and to do so in short order. Don't you know how to do it? Where once you thought having a week to write a paper was a short amount of time, now you know that if you have more than 24 hours to do anything, that's a luxury. Where once you wondered whether you would ever be able to lock horns with an adversary and debate difficult issues, now you know that when the need arises, you can hold your ground with conviction and expound upon a line of reasoning that you yourself developed and that you deemed worthy of advancing. And where once the language of the law would send you running through a dictionary, highlighters and colored pens in hands, stick-em notes ready. Now terms like ex matemoto, sua sponte, res ipsa loquitur, caveat emptor, divisavet val non, de minimis non curit les, ejusdem generis, and ipso facto roll through your minds with the ring of familiarity, each one evoking in you the proper response. Where once the concepts and theories and doctrines of the law would leave you with blank stares, now you are ready to join in discussions of the doctrine of worthy a title, of strict liability, of sovereign immunity, of collateral estoppel, of cypre, of proximate cause, meeting of the minds, the but-for test, and all the other things that lawyers throw into conversations when we stand around with the others who are not trained in the law like we are. And though those concepts might not yet feel like old shoes, you've gotten familiar enough with them that they don't restrict you as if they were new shoes, and so you have become broken in to the ways of the law. And along the way, I think you've noticed, and people around you probably have noticed, that you've actually been changed by what you went through. I can remember going through the change, the very perception of things change. You now hear the silences and the pauses in sentences, and you catch the omissions, and you wonder, why didn't that person say that? And you now think that when somebody says, I'm going to make you a promise, you think about contracts. And when you go home and you see a pair of skates at the bottom of the stairs, you think torts. And now when somebody says, I got a right, you said, what's the remedy? And so you've been changed by the things that you went through. And so here you are, all robed and ready to go, degrees bestowed upon you and all that. And so you've been changed, but I think it's worthy to ask what has been happening to the profession while you were going through this change. What is the state of the law in the world that you go out into? It seems to me that as you step more fully into the legal arena, you need to be paying attention to what you're getting into. I mean, it's kind of late. I mean, you're kind of almost there. But it's worth thinking about, is the law looked upon with respect? Are its practitioners held in high esteem? Is the law a mighty force for justice? Is the law the stuff of young people's dreams? Would other people looking at you say, I want to be like that person? I got to tell you that when you're out in the street and you listen to folks sometime, the answer comes back no to a lot of those questions. The lawyers get to be the butt of jokes, do we not? Maybe all have started hearing that already. And lawyers are criticized, and lawyers get bad names and all that. Let's go back in time and think about the role of lawyers. If you go back to 1600, now that's more than 400 years ago. That's even before Jamestown, up the street, before even the founding of this great historic law school. You will remember that about that time, Shakespeare caused Hamlet to lament that the whips and scars of time included not just the oppressor's wrong, not just the proud man's contumely, not just the pangs of disprized love, but also the law's delay. That was 400 years ago. And so 400 years ago, and even now, justice delayed is justice denied. But I don't say this and talk about the criticism of the law to deflate you on this big day. I mention this for another reason, because I want to spur you guys on to greatness. I want to spur you on to be great, powerful changers of the law for good. I want you to be part of making the law to be held in the high esteem that it once was. I mean, it was a 32-year-old lawyer from right here at William and Mary who wrote that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain and right here in the same place where you walked, in the same place that you said, that's pretty amazing. That was world changing. That was a time when people looked at lawyers and said, God, I want to be like them. And then it's worth remembering that it was 29 people of the 55 who signed the Declaration who were trained in the law. Did y'all know it was 14 lawyers and 15 judges who signed away their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honors to help create the America that we know now? Lawyers also, as we talked about your first day, brought the great cases that helped transform America, brought the cases that made it so it wouldn't be illegal for somebody who looks like me to stand in a place like this to address a group like you. Lawyers brought America to its best. The law operates on us and in our lives day in, day out. It's part of the fabric of everything we do. Lawyers have been and continue to be a symbol of hope. When it gets bad, when things are going wrong, people still come to lawyers, do they not? When the case is tough, people still come see us, do they not? And so the message to you today is that just as when we first met, what did I tell you? The law is what you make it. Remember that? Remember I told you that the words of the law can say all the things they want to say, but you make the difference, because the words of the Constitution that kept me away from you were the same words that let me stand in front of you today, but the difference was the people who became responsible for the law. And so I say to you that, and I got this because I looked at my granddaddy. I always thought my granddaddy was a time traveler because he was born in the 1800s and I was born in the 1900s. And I said, Granddaddy, what was it like all that long ago? It was just 1890, but I was 1950. But look at you guys. You're born in one century. You're born in another millennium. And you become lawyers in the 21st century. And so you're on a trip. And people are always going to look at you as time travelers. But if you're going to be on a trip, there are some things you want to take with you and some things you want to leave behind. And so if we look back 1,000 years ago, you would see that Beowulf was being written. The Chinese were perfecting gunpowder. The Indian mathematician Siddhartha had recognized the importance of zero, and people were trying to fly. If you look back 100 years ago to 1912, you will find out that tea bags and instant coffee were being created because they knew there were going to be lawyers who needed to stay up. Cellophane was developed, escalators were just being invented, and disposable razors were first used. And you will also find that 15 women were fired from the Curtis Publishing Company for dancing the turkey trot during their lunch hour. It was a terrible thing to do. But through all those centuries and all that time, there's been hatred, strife, discord, division, combat, destruction, wars and rumors of war, and I'm saying don't take that with you. Yet in the same time, in that same arc of time, we saw the works of the Renaissance masters, the growth of science, the acceptance of the scientific method, the healing power of medicine come to fore, the announcement of principles of human freedom and dignity, the rise of public education, the end of slavery, the growth of democracy, successful wars against vicious dictators, stunning advances in technology, and we came to understand that justice under the law is the most fertile environment for stunning human achievement. Yes, it is. And you have the law in your hands. And so what I want you guys to do is to take with you an abiding sense of right and wrong. Take with you a dedication to the law as an instrument of justice. Take with you a deep conviction that you have a role to play in making the nation a more perfect union, that you are going to help perfect America in all the things that you do. And so I talked about Shakespeare and the law's delay, and I told you at the beginning that you will practice law at the speed of light, and that electrons know no boundaries. Remember that? That you will practice law all over the world, and you will understand systems and regimes and thought patterns that we know nothing about today. And so if you can practice law at the speed of light, justice delayed ought to go away, and the law's delay ought to be put behind us in your generation and in your time. And so the ifs of life stand in front of you today. If you can just remember the bright, good hope that was in you as you were young people, if you can remember the idealism that you came here with to this law school when you wanted to just stand up and be a lawyer so you could have an effect on the world, if you could do those things, if you can keep your head while all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, of being lied about, don't deal in lies, of being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build them up with worn out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will that says to them, hold on. If you can walk with crowds and keep your virtue, or talk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, then the hope of the law will live within you, and the work of the founders will not be undone. I'm proud of you. God bless you.